When I went to pick up my son from preschool, the teacher said, "Your brother came to pick him up earlier today." I froze and replied, "I don't have a brother." I immediately called the police, and their investigation uncovered an unbelievable truth. My son went missing. The police uncover. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. The parking lot outside Maple Glen Elementary was nearly empty when Talia Brooks pulled her Toyota into a space near the front entrance. Her hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles still aching from the morning shift. The afternoon sun cut through the windshield, heating the dashboard until it radiated warmth against her forearms. She was late, 10 minutes, maybe 12. The digital clock on the dash read 3:47 p.m. School dismissal was at 3:30. Talia killed the engine and stepped out into the September heat. Her uniform smelled like coffee grounds and dish soap. The fabric stuck to her lower back where sweat had soaked through during the lunch rush. She'd worked a double at the diner, covering for Jenny, who'd called in sick again, and her feet throbbed inside her sneakers. She pulled her phone from her pocket for percent battery. The screen showed 2 missed calls from an unknown number, both from over an hour ago. No voicemail. Talia pushed through the front door of the school. The office was small, painted in pale yellow with motivational posters stuck to the walls. A woman in her 50s sat behind the desk, typing something into an old desktop computer. She looked up when Talia entered, and her expression shifted. Confusion first, then something closer to concern. "Can I help you?" the secretary asked. "I'm here to pick up Kenneth Brooks," Talia said. "I know I'm late. Traffic was—" "Oh." The woman's face went blank. "Your brother already picked him up." The words didn't land at first. Talia stood there, her bag still slung over one shoulder, phone in hand. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, a janitor's cart rattled across tile. "My brother," Talia repeated. The secretary nodded, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. "Yes, about 40 minutes ago. He said there was a family emergency." She reached for a clipboard on the desk, flipping through pages. "He knew your name. Knew Kenneth's teacher, Mrs. Pemberton. He even showed me a photo of Kenneth on his phone." Talia's pulse kicked up, but her voice stayed level. "I don't have a brother." The room went quiet. The secretary's hand froze on the clipboard. Her mouth opened, then closed. She blinked twice, as if trying to rewind what she just said. "I'm sorry, what?" "I don't have a brother," Talia said again, slower this time. "I don't have any siblings." The woman's face drained of color. She stood abruptly, knocking her chair backward. "Oh my God!" Talia's chest tightened, but she forced herself to breathe. Panic wouldn't help. "Not now. Show me the log," she said. The secretary fumbled with the clipboard, her hands shaking as she turned it around. Talia leaned over the desk, scanning the sign-out sheet. Kenneth's name was there, printed in blue ink. Next to it, a signature. Patrick Rourke. The name hit her like cold water. She hadn't heard it in 3 years, hadn't spoken it, hadn't allowed herself to think it for longer than a few seconds at a time. Patrick, Kenneth's father, the man who'd been barred from contact after the restraining order, after the court dates he'd missed, after the night he'd shown up drunk, pounding on her apartment door until the neighbors called the police. Talia's hands curled into fists. "What did he look like?" she asked. The secretary stammered. "Tall, brown hair. He had a beard, I think. He seemed nice, polite." "What was he wearing?" "A jacket. Dark blue, maybe." "I don't." "What did he say?" "He said his sister, you, were stuck at work and there was a family emergency. He knew Kenneth's middle name. He knew what grade he was in." The woman's voice cracked. "I didn't think." "Did anyone else see him?" Mrs. Pemberton walked Kenneth out to the pickup area. She didn't seem concerned. Talia straightened. Her mind was already moving, cataloging what mattered and what didn't. Blame could wait. Right now, she needed information. Call the principal, Talia said. Then call the police. The secretary grabbed the phone, her fingers trembling as she dialed. Talia stepped back, staring at Patrick's name on the log. He'd written it clearly, confidently, as if he had every right to be there. She'd been careful. She'd changed schools after the restraining order, changed her routines, changed her phone number twice. She'd made sure Kenneth understood never to leave with anyone who wasn't on the approved list. But she'd never changed Kenneth's last name. That was the mistake. Patrick still had legal ties to the name, still had old photos, still had enough information to sound convincing to someone who didn't know better. Talia pulled out her phone and opened her contacts. She scrolled to a number she hadn't called in months. Her lawyer, the one who'd handled the custody case. The phone rang 3 times before voicemail picked up. "This is Veronica Lane. Leave a message." Talia kept her voice steady. "It's Talia Brooks. Patrick took Kenneth from school. I need you to call me back immediately." She hung up and dialed another number. Her sister, Amy, who lived 2 hours north in Erie. Amy answered on the second ring. "Hey, what's up?" "Patrick has Kenneth." Silence. Then, "What do you mean he has Kenneth?" "He picked him up from school. Pretended to be my brother. The school let him go." Jesus Christ. Amy's voice went sharp. "Did you call the cops?" "They're calling them now." "Where are you?" "Still at the school." "I'm coming down." "You don't have to." "I'm already grabbing my keys." Talia closed her eyes. "Okay. Do not do anything stupid, Talia. Let the police handle this." "I know. I'm serious. You go after him yourself, and it'll just make things worse." I said I know. Amy exhaled. "I'll be there in 2 hours. Stay put." The call ended. Talia stood in the office, watching the secretary speak rapidly into the phone. The principal appeared a few minutes later, a middle-aged man with graying hair and a look of pure dread on his face. "Ms. Brooks," he said, "I cannot tell you how deeply sorry—" "Save it," Talia interrupted. "Just get the footage." "Footage?" "Security cameras. You have them in the pickup area, right?" The principal nodded quickly. "Yes, of course. I'll pull it right now." He disappeared into a back room. Talia sat down in one of the plastic chairs near the window. Her legs felt unsteady, but she refused to let it show. She placed her phone on her lap and stared at the screen, willing it to ring. It didn't. 20 minutes later, 2 police officers arrived. One was younger, maybe in his late 20s, with a notebook in hand. The other was older, a woman with short, gray hair and a calm, measured voice. "Ms. Brooks," the woman said, "I'm Officer Delgado. This is Officer Harris. We need to ask you a few questions." Talia stood. "My son is missing. I need you to find him." "We're going to do everything we can," Delgado said, "but we need information first. Can you come with us?" They moved to a quieter room, an empty classroom at the end of the hall. Talia sat at a student desk while the officers pulled up chairs across from her. Harris opened his notebook. "Tell us what happened." Talia spoke without hesitation. She gave them Patrick's full name, his last known address, his date of birth. She told them about the restraining order, the custody battle, the missed court dates. "Do you have a copy of the custody agreement?" Delgado asked. "At home. I can get it." "We'll need that. What about a recent photo of Patrick?" "No. Does he have family in the area?" "His mother, Linda Rourke. She lives in Westmoreland County." Harris wrote it down. "Do you think she'd help him?" "I don't know. Maybe." Delgado leaned forward. "Has Patrick tried to contact you recently? Any threats?" Any indication he was planning something like this? Talia shook her head. I haven't heard from him in 3 years. Not since the restraining order. And Kenneth? Has Patrick tried to reach out to him? No. Does Kenneth remember him? Talia hesitated. Barely. He was 4 when we left. Harris tapped his pen against the notebook. Ms. Brooks, I have to ask, is there any chance Kenneth went willingly? Talia's jaw tightened. He's 7 years old. He didn't go willingly. He was lied to. I understand. I just need to know if Kenneth would recognize Patrick. If he'd trust him. Kenneth knows not to leave with strangers. But Patrick isn't a stranger. Not completely. Delgado nodded. We're going to issue an alert. Amber Alert, if necessary. We'll contact Patrick's known associates, his mother, anyone who might know where he is. How long will that take? Talia asked. We're starting now. It wasn't fast enough. Talia stood. I need to go home. Get the custody papers. We can send an officer with you, Delgado said. I don't need an escort. Harris closed his notebook. Ms. Brooks, I know this is difficult, but the best thing you can do right now is let us handle this. Don't try to contact Patrick yourself. Don't go looking for him. Talia didn't respond. She walked out of the classroom, through the empty hallway and back to her car. The sun was lower now, casting orange light across the parking lot. She climbed into the driver's seat and sat there for a moment, staring at the steering wheel. Then she started the engine and drove home. The apartment was exactly as she'd left it that morning. Kenneth's backpack hung on a hook by the door. His sneakers sat neatly on the mat. The living room smelled faintly of the cinnamon toast he'd eaten for breakfast. Talia moved through the space, mechanically. She went to her bedroom and pulled a file box from the closet. Inside were court documents, custody agreements, copies of the restraining order. She found what she needed and set it on the bed. Then she sat down on Kenneth's bed across the hall. His room was small but tidy. A bookshelf lined one wall, stuffed with picture books and chapter books he was just starting to read on his own. His bed was made. She taught him to do that every morning before school. On the nightstand sat a framed photo of the two of them at the park last summer. Kenneth was laughing, his face sunburned, holding a popsicle. Talia picked up one of his socks from the laundry basket in the corner. Just one. She pressed it into her palm, feeling the cotton fabric bunch beneath her fingers. She didn't cry. Crying wouldn't bring him back. She thought about Patrick, about the last time she'd seen him, 3 years ago outside the courthouse. He'd looked thinner then, worn down by the hearings and the lawyers and the inevitable loss. He tried to talk to her afterward in the parking lot. I'm still his father, he'd said. Talia had walked past him without a word. Now he'd taken Kenneth, not because he loved him, not because he wanted to be a father, because he wanted to win. Talia set the sock down and stood. She walked back to her bedroom, opened the bottom drawer of her dresser, and pulled out an old envelope. Inside was a list, names, addresses, phone numbers, people Patrick used to know, people she'd hoped she'd never need to contact again. She stared at the list for a long moment. Then she folded it and slipped it into her pocket. Fear was done. That night, Talia didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, scrolling through Patrick's social media. He didn't post often, mostly old photos, shared memes, the occasional rant about politics or sports. His last post was from 6 months ago, a blurry photo of a fishing rod and a lake, captioned back, "Where I belong." She zoomed in on the photo, trying to identify the location. The background was generic: trees, water, sky. It could have been anywhere in Pennsylvania. Her phone buzzed. "Amy, you still awake?" Amy asked. "Yeah." "Have you heard anything?" "No." "What did the cops say?" "They issued an alert. Said they'd contact his family." And nothing. "I'm waiting." Amy was quiet for a moment. "You sound too calm." "I'm not calm. You're not panicking, either. Panicking won't help. Talia, you need to let them do their job. I am. You're lying. Talia didn't respond. Amy sighed. Don't do anything stupid. Please. I won't. I'm still coming down tomorrow morning. Okay. The call ended. Talia went back to the laptop. She opened a new tab and searched for Patrick's mother, Linda Rourke. Her Facebook page was public, filled with photos of grandchildren Talia had never met. Patrick appeared in a few old photos, always in the background, always looking uncomfortable. Linda's most recent post was from 2 days ago. Blessed to have family close by. Talia stared at the words. Family. Close by. She closed the laptop and stood. The police could handle their investigation. Talia would handle hers. Talia woke at dawn, though she'd barely slept. She showered, dressed, and made coffee she didn't drink. The apartment felt too quiet. Every time she passed Kenneth's room, she had to force herself not to look inside. At 7:30 a.m., Officer Delgado called. Ms. Brooks, we've made contact with Patrick's mother. She claims she hasn't seen him in over a month. She's lying, Talia said. We don't have evidence of that. Did you search her house? We don't have grounds for a search warrant. Talia's grip on the phone tightened. So what are you doing? We've distributed Kenneth's photo to local departments. We're monitoring Patrick's known vehicles and credit cards. If he uses either, we'll know. That's not enough. Ms. Brooks, I understand your frustration. Do you have kids, Officer Delgado? A pause. Yes. Then you understand that this isn't frustration. This is terror, and I need more than monitoring. Delgado's voice softened. We're doing everything we can within the law. I promise you, we want to find Kenneth as much as you do. Talia hung up. She grabbed her keys and walked out the door. Westmoreland County was an hour's drive east. Talia took back roads, avoiding highways where she might lose herself to thought. The morning was cool, the sky overcast. Fields of dry grass stretched out on either side of the road, broken occasionally by farmhouses and rusted silos. Linda Rourke's house sat at the end of a gravel driveway, partially hidden by overgrown hedges. It was a narrow ranch with peeling white paint and a sagging front porch. A pickup truck was parked in the driveway, covered in a thin layer of dust. Talia pulled up to the curb and got out. She walked to the front door and knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. The door opened slowly. Linda Rourke stood in the doorway, wearing a faded housecoat and slippers. She was in her early 60s, with gray hair pulled into a loose bun and deep lines around her eyes. She looked at Talia without surprise. I told him not to, Linda said immediately. Talia stepped forward, forcing Linda to back into the house. You helped him. Linda's shoulders sagged. She didn't try to stop Talia from entering. The living room was cluttered, newspapers stacked on the coffee table, a blanket draped over the couch, the faint smell of cigarette smoke lingering in the air. I didn't help him, Linda said quietly. I told him it was a bad idea. But you knew. He called me 2 days ago, said he was planning something, said you'd poisoned Kenneth against him, said you were going to run and he'd never see his boy again. Talia's voice stayed cold. Where is he? Linda shook her head. I don't know. You're lying. I'm not. Patrick doesn't tell me things. He never has. Talia moved closer. He called you. That means he trusts you. That means he'll call again. Linda's hands trembled. Even if he does, what am I supposed to do? Turn him in? Yes. He's my son. And Kenneth is mine. The room went quiet. Linda looked away, her eyes glistening. Patrick's not a bad person. He's just lost. He's been lost since his father died. I don't care. He loves Kenneth. He doesn't know what love is, Talia interrupted. Love doesn't involve lying to a school. Love doesn't involve kidnapping a child. Linda's voice cracked. He said you'd say that. Then he was right. Talia turned and walked toward the hallway. Linda followed, her slippers shuffling against the linoleum. What are you doing? Linda asked. Looking. For what? Anything. Talia opened doors as she went. A bathroom, a linen closet, a bedroom that smelled like mothballs. At the end of the hall was another bedroom, smaller and messier. A twin bed with unmade sheets. A desk covered in old mail and receipts. Patrick's room. Talia rifled through the desk drawers. Old bills, expired coupons, a few crumpled photos of Kenneth from years ago. Nothing useful. She opened the closet. A few jackets, a pair of boots, a box of tools. Then she saw it, a crumpled piece of paper shoved into the corner of the top shelf. She pulled it down and unfolded it. It was a rental agreement. Temporary lodging near Lake Harlan. The dates started 3 days ago. Talia folded the paper and slipped it into her pocket. When she turned around, Linda was standing in the doorway, her face pale. You can't go there, Linda said. Watch me. The police. The police don't care as much as I do. Linda grabbed Talia's arm. Please, if you confront him like this, it'll make things worse. He'll panic. He'll run. Kenneth could get hurt. Talia pulled her arm free. Kenneth is already hurt. Every second he's with Patrick is another second he's scared and confused and wondering why I'm not there. Then let the police handle it. They've had their chance. Talia walked past Linda, through the living room and out the front door. She didn't look back. Lake Harlan was 45 minutes north, nestled in a patch of state forest near the Ohio border. Talia had been there once, years ago, on a camping trip with Kenneth. He'd loved it, throwing rocks into the water, catching frogs in the shallows. Now the thought of him there with Patrick made her stomach churn. She pulled into a gas station just outside the lake's access road. Her phone had 2 bars of service. She sat in the car and dialed Amy. Where are you? Amy asked. Near Lake Harlan. Talia, what the hell? I found him. You think you found him. You don't know for sure. It's him. Then call the police. I will. After I see Kenneth. That's a terrible idea. I don't care. Amy's voice rose. If you go in there alone, Patrick could do something stupid. He could take Kenneth and run. You could get arrested for interfering. Or worse, he could hurt you. He won't. You don't know that. Talia's grip on the phone tightened. Patrick's a coward. He always has been. He ran from court. He ran from responsibility. He won't fight me face to face. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking perfectly clearly. I know what I'm doing. Talia, I have to go. She hung up and turned off her phone. Then she drove toward the lake. The rental cabins were scattered along a dirt road that wound through the trees. Most of them looked empty, windows dark, driveways vacant. Talia drove slowly, scanning each one. The 4th cabin had a car parked out front, a sedan with out-of-state plates. Talia pulled over and parked down the road out of sight. She got out and walked through the trees, circling toward the back of the cabin. The ground was soft with pine needles, muffling her footsteps. Sunlight filtered through the branches, dappling the earth in shifting patterns. The cabin was small, maybe 2 rooms. A porch wrapped around the front, sagging in the middle. One window was open, letting in the breeze. Talia crouched behind a tree and listened. Voices. Kenneth's voice. Why can't I call Mom? I told you, buddy. She's busy right now. But I want to talk to her. You will. Soon. I promise. Talia's chest tightened. Kenneth sounded confused, but not scared. That was something. She moved closer, staying low. Through the open window, she could see Patrick sitting on a couch, a beer in hand. Kenneth sat across from him, holding a coloring book. Patrick looked thinner than she remembered. His beard was scruffy, uneven. His clothes were wrinkled. He looked like a man who'd been running for a long time. Talia pulled out her phone and turned it back on. She opened the camera app and took a photo through the window. Kenneth, Patrick, the cabin interior. Evidence. Then she opened her messages and typed quickly. Found them. Lake Harlan, Cabin 4, Pine Ridge Road. Sending photo. She attached the photo and sent it to Officer Delgado. Then she stood and walked around to the front of the cabin. She knocked on the door. Patrick opened the door with a beer in hand. For a moment, he just stared at her. Then his expression shifted. Surprise, then something close to resignation. "Talia," he said, "you always did overreact." She stepped inside and locked the door behind her. Patrick set his beer on the counter. "How'd you find me?" "Your mother." He laughed, bitter and short. "Of course she did." Kenneth looked up from the couch, his eyes widening. "Mom." He ran to her, and Talia knelt down, wrapping her arms around him. He smelled like sweat and dirt and something sweet, maybe candy. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice low. Kenneth nodded. "Dad said there was an emergency." Talia glanced at Patrick. "There wasn't." Patrick crossed his arms. "He's my son, too." "Not according to the court." "The court's wrong." Talia stood, keeping Kenneth close. "You lied to a school. That's a felony." "He's my son." "You lost that right." Patrick's face hardened. "You don't get to decide that alone." "I didn't. A judge did." Patrick stepped closer. "You poisoned him against me." "I protected him from you." "Bullshit. You wanted to erase me. You erased yourself." Patrick's jaw clenched. "I made mistakes. I know that. But I'm trying to fix things." "By kidnapping him?" "By being his father." Talia reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She held it up, showing the screen. "I already sent the police your exact location. They're on their way." Patrick's expression changed. The color drained from his face. He looked at the door, then back at Talia, then at Kenneth. "You're bluffing," he said. "Am I?" Patrick grabbed his keys from the counter. "You're not taking him." "Yes, I am." "You can't stop me." Talia stepped between him and Kenneth. "Try me." For a moment, Patrick looked like he might. His hands curled into fists, his breathing quickened. Then he deflated. He set the keys back down and sat on the couch, burying his face in his hands. "I just wanted to be his dad," he said quietly. "Then you should have shown up when it mattered," Talia said. "You should have gone to court. You should have stayed sober. You should have been the person Kenneth needed." Patrick didn't respond. Talia pulled Kenneth toward the door. "Come on, sweetheart." "Where are we going?" Kenneth asked. "Home." As they stepped outside, the sound of sirens grew louder in the distance. The police arrived 10 minutes later. 3 patrol cars, lights flashing. Officer Delgado stepped out first, followed by Harris and 2 other officers Talia didn't recognize. Delgado walked up to Talia, her expression unreadable. "Ms. Brooks, are you and Kenneth all right?" "We're fine." Delgado glanced at the cabin. "Is Patrick inside?" "Yes." "Did he hurt you?" "No." "Did he threaten you?" "No." Delgado nodded and signaled to the other officers. They moved toward the cabin, hands on their holsters. Patrick came out without resistance. His hands were empty, his face blank. He didn't look at Talia or Kenneth as the officers cuffed him and led him to one of the patrol cars. Delgado turned back to Talia. "You shouldn't have come here alone." "I know." "You could have been hurt." "I know." Delgado's voice softened. "But I'm glad you're both safe." Talia nodded. She watched as the patrol car, carrying Patrick, pulled away, its lights still flashing. Kenneth stood beside her, holding her hand tightly. "Is Dad in trouble?" he asked. "Yes," Talia said. "Why?" Because he did something wrong. Is he coming back? Talia knelt down and looked Kenneth in the eye. No, sweetheart. He's not. Kenneth's lip trembled. But he said he was my dad. He is. But being a dad means more than just saying it. It means being there. Keeping promises. Keeping you safe. She brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. And he didn't do those things. Kenneth was quiet for a moment. Then he hugged her, burying his face in her shoulder. Talia held him tightly. She didn't cry. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Patrick was formally charged with custodial interference, impersonation, and falsifying school records. His bail was set high, higher than he could afford. He sat in county jail while his lawyers scrambled to build a defense. Talia attended every hearing. She sat in the back of the courtroom, her face neutral, her hands folded in her lap. She listened as Patrick's lawyer argued for leniency, claiming Patrick had acted out of love and desperation. The judge wasn't swayed. "Mr. Rourke," the judge said during the final hearing, "you had every opportunity to be a father to your son. You chose not to take those opportunities. Instead, you chose to lie, to manipulate, and to endanger a child's sense of safety and stability." Patrick stared at the floor. "I'm terminating your parental rights," the judge continued. "You will have no legal claim to Kenneth Brooks, no custody, no visitation, no contact of any kind." Patrick's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, this decision is final." The gavel came down. Talia felt something loosen in her chest, not relief, exactly, but something close to it. Patrick turned in his seat, looking back at her. His eyes were red, his face drawn. He mouthed something. "I'm sorry." Talia looked away. She didn't care if he was sorry. She cared that it was over. 3 months later, Talia and Kenneth moved north. Not back to Erie, where Amy lived, but farther, across the state line into Michigan, to a small town near Traverse City. It was quieter there, safer, far enough from Patrick's world that Talia could finally breathe. The new apartment was small but clean. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with enough counter space for Kenneth to do homework while she cooked. The landlord didn't ask too many questions when Talia paid the deposit in cash. Kenneth started at a new school. This one had stricter protocols. Photo IDs required for pickup, a security guard at the front desk, cameras in every hallway. Talia made sure her name was the only one on the approved list. On Kenneth's first day, she walked him to the classroom herself. She introduced herself to the teacher, a kind woman in her 40s named Ms. Fletcher. "Kenneth's a great kid," Ms. Fletcher said, smiling. "Thank you," Talia replied. "Just please don't let anyone pick him up unless I'm on the list." "Of course. We're very careful about that." Talia hesitated. "I mean it. No one. Not even if they say there's an emergency." Ms. Fletcher's smile faded slightly, but she nodded. "I understand." Talia thanked her and left. The first few weeks were hard. Kenneth had nightmares. He'd wake up crying, asking where his dad was, why they'd moved, why everything felt different. Talia held him until he fell back asleep. During the day, she worked 2 jobs, one at a coffee shop, the other cleaning offices at night. The money wasn't great, but it was enough. Enough for rent. Enough for groceries. Enough for the small savings account she'd opened in Kenneth's name. Amy visited once a month, driving up from Erie with bags of hand-me-down clothes and toys her own kids had outgrown. "You look exhausted," Amy said one Saturday afternoon, sitting at Talia's kitchen table. "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're running yourself into the ground." "I'm doing what I have to do." Amy sighed. "Have you heard from Patrick?" "No." "Good." Talia poured coffee into 2 mugs and sat down across from her sister. "He tried to write me a letter. From jail. The lawyer forwarded it." "Did you read it?" "No. I threw it away." "Good," Amy said again. She took a sip of coffee. "What did the lawyer say about the charges?" "He's pleading guilty. trying to reduce his sentence. How long? 18 months, maybe 2 years. Amy nodded. And after that? After that, he's out of our lives. Legally. Permanently. Do you think he'll actually stay away? Talia stared at her coffee. I don't know. But if he tries anything, I'll be ready. Ready how? However, I need to be. Amy reached across the table and squeezed Talia's hand. You're a good mom. You know that, right? Talia didn't respond. One evening in late November, Talia sat with Kenneth in the living room. He was reading a book for school, his lips moving silently as he sounded out the words. Mom, he said suddenly. Yeah. Do you think Dad's mad at me? Talia set down the dish towel she'd been folding. Why would you think that? Kenneth shrugged. Because we left. Because I didn't want to stay with him. Kenneth, look at me. He did. Nothing that happened is your fault. Not one thing. Your dad made bad choices. That's on him, not you. But he said he loved me. Maybe he does. I don't know. But love isn't just words. It's actions. It's showing up. It's keeping you safe. She brushed her hand through his hair. And he didn't do that. Kenneth was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Do you love me? More than anything in the world. Even when I'm bad. You're not bad. You're human. And yes, even when you make mistakes. Kenneth smiled, small but genuine. Then he went back to his book. Talia watched him for a long moment. She thought about Patrick sitting in a cell somewhere. She thought about the court hearings, the sleepless nights, the fear that had gripped her when she'd realized Kenneth was gone. She thought about forgiveness, and whether it was something she owed anyone. It wasn't. Patrick had made his choices. He'd lied. He'd taken Kenneth. He'd tried to rewrite the narrative, to make himself the victim. But Talia had rewritten it back, and she wasn't sorry. Months passed. Kenneth's nightmares became less frequent. He made friends at school. He joined a soccer team. He laughed more. Talia still worked 2 jobs, but she started to sleep better. She started to feel like maybe, just maybe, they were building something stable. One afternoon in early spring, Kenneth came home from school with a permission slip for a field trip. We're going to the Science Museum, he said excitedly. Can I go? Talia read the form. It required a parent's signature and a small fee. Of course you can go, she said. Kenneth grinned. Thanks, Mom. As he ran to his room to grab his backpack, Talia sat at the table and stared at the permission slip. She thought about all the things Patrick had missed. Birthday parties, school plays, soccer games, the small, everyday moments that made up a childhood. He'd chosen to miss them, and now he'd miss all the ones to come. Talia signed the form and set it aside. She didn't feel sad. She felt free. On a quiet Sunday in June, Talia and Kenneth drove to the lake. It wasn't Lake Harlan. She'd never go back there. This was a different lake, smaller and quieter, with a sandy beach and clear water. Kenneth ran ahead, kicking off his shoes and splashing into the shallows. Mom, come on, he called. Talia followed, rolling up her jeans and wading in. The water was cold, but the sun was warm on her shoulders. Kenneth laughed, throwing water at her. She laughed back, chasing him along the shore. For a moment, everything else fell away. No court dates, no fear, no Patrick, just her and her son, safe and happy. Later, as they sat on the beach eating sandwiches, Kenneth leaned against her. I like it here, he said. Me too. Are we going to stay? For as long as we want. Kenneth smiled. Good. Talia wrapped an arm around him, pulling him close. She thought about the future, about the life they were building, brick by brick, moment by moment. She thought about the rules she'd taught Kenneth. Never leave with anyone not on the list. Always speak up. Family isn't blood, it's behavior. She thought about Patrick and whether he'd ever understand what he'd lost. She decided it didn't matter. He was gone, and she and Kenneth were here. That was the only ending that mattered.